Mrs. Rain and I went miniature golfing at Toad Suck Mini Golf, and while it's an okay but pretty paltry excuse for a putt-putt course, I left there with one burning question about Southern culture. You people realize that the goal of mini golf is to just tap the ball into the hole, right? It's not to hit the ball as hard as you can. I ask this because there was a large family in front of us and it seemed like damn near every hole, at least one in their party managed to hit the ball completely off the course. At one point I watched as the mom took a golf ball to the face. How do you even do that at putt-putt? Games don't get any simpler than hit a ball into a hole. How do you manage to consistently fuck that up? Then as we were leaving, I heard the daughter shout, and I quote, "Hey Paul, did you lock the keys in the truck?" So maybe it was just the most stereotypically brain-dead hillbilly family that has ever lived. But anyway, let's do this shit. Taqueria El Macho is a Mexican food truck next to an Ace Hardware, and they have Santa Maria! Arroz con pollo. Arroz con pollo, like many dishes of Hispanic origin, has a disputed history, and many will argue if the version found here in America is even remotely authentic. But I only know two things. One, it's damn delicious, and two, I once thought it was served all over this great country of ours until I moved to Arkansas. Because despite there being Mexican restaurants every other block here, none of them served arroz con pollo. Or at least until now. So I ordered it, and prepared to be reunited with an old friend. Chicken marinated with lime juice, adobo, and sazon, stewed with veggies and served over expertly seasoned adobo rice, and topped with cheese as we Americans love to do. Come back to me, arroz con pollo. Holy shit! What the fuck is this? What in the name of Stonewall Jackson's ghost is this? What is this? The answer to that question is I don't give a fuck chicken served over I don't give a fuck rice and topped with an I don't give a fuck cheese sauce. It was as close to true arroz con pollo as the McRib is to Southern barbecue. Oh, and Mrs. Rain got a burrito that she said was meh. Yeah, in the pantheon of Mexican food in Conway, Taqueria El Macho lands on the side of forgettable. There's worse, sure, but for having the shriveled sack to call this abomination arroz con pollo, I'm giving them a 2 out of 10. I don't precisely know when it became sort of normal to have a restaurant inside a gas station. Where I come from, the food you get at a gas station is just from the gas station. Hoagies from Wawa, fried chicken from Royal Farms, shit like that. But apparently, it's now totally normal to throw a functioning restaurant that apparently doesn't suck inside a gas station. Here's a highly regarded barbecue joint at a gas station in Houston. Here's an acclaimed Indian restaurant at a gas station in LA. And here in Conway, we have Wild Ginger, a hibachi restaurant operating inside the Exxon on Dave Ward. Now, hibachi isn't exactly groundbreaking hot cuisine, just meat, veggies, rice, some type of sauce. It's a simple affair, and the servings are usually enough to have for multiple meals. And you know, nothing about it sounds too complicated that it can't theoretically be created inside a gas station. But I'm sorry to report that Wild Ginger is very, 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 very mid, Famalima Ding Dong. In fact, I'd say that of the hibachi options in Conway, they are probably the worst of the bunch. That's not to say it's bad, just that you could find better hibachi if you went literally anywhere else doing hibachi that isn't Wild Ginger. And the reason for that is pretty simple. It's the veggies. Good hibachi has things like pea pods, mushrooms, and zucchini. Bad or cheap hibachi uses broccoli and carrots. It's as simple as that. And if you want good hibachi, you should probably take your business elsewhere, because Wild Ginger is a weak 4 out of 10. For this week's venture to Little Rock, we visited the Buttered Biscuit, where we saw a crowd of people outside waiting to be seated. So we drove around and spotted something called Gandolfo's Deli. Now look, not to talk down to you Southerners twice in one video, but a deli has a very specific meaning up north. It's a serious moniker that usually signifies a place to get great sandwiches, groceries, and oftentimes an array of Italian and or Jewish delicacies. What I'm saying is that if you slap the word deli in your establishment, you've got a lot to live up to. So did Gandolfo's?
No!
No, they did not. We ordered something traditional, an Italian hoagie, and something very untraditional, a butter chicken sandwich. And they were both fine. Not fine as in for an authentic deli, but fine compared to, say, Firehouse Subs. The butter chicken sandwich consisted of a fried chicken cutlet tossed in a butter chicken sauce, and if I'm being fair, it was tasty. But this was the high watermark, one which was dragged down deep into the depths by two things that accompanied them. You see, the reason we settled on trying Gandolfo's was a sign out front that promised, quote, real New York-style pizza by the slice. This is also an incredibly bold claim to make, one which many establishments make and almost none deliver on. Well, okay, Gandalf, give me your best slice. He did, and I tell you this, no one, anywhere, at any point in gastronomic history has been further away from a New York slice than this, because what we were given was so bad that it's honestly hard to put into words. Think for a moment how you organize and rank pizzas in your mind. Chains like Domino's, Little Caesars, Papa John's, Pizza Hut. Now think of frozen pizzas. DiGiorno's, Tombstone, Red Baron. Now think of the ones that can barely be considered pizza. Elio's, Bagel Bites, the pizza from your school cafeteria. I bring these all up because the slice of pizza from Gandolfo's was worse than all of them. It blew through damn near every layer of Planet Pizza straight into the core, where it shares an apartment with those $5 pizzas from 7-Eleven as the worst pizza anywhere. Unbelievably shit. And as bad as that was, it was somehow not the worst thing you'll find at Gandolfo's. That, I'm sorry to say, was the chef, manager, owner, whoever this guy was. He was constantly hovering around the room, buzzing between the few tables of customers, like Gil, the hapless salesman from The Simpsons, channeling his inner Gordon Ramsay, talking up the food, the menu, the restaurant, to anyone who would listen without openly telling him to fuck off. Now, I have the natural disposition of an unpleasant pile of shit, so he didn't mess with us, but our meal was treated to a constant chorus of his voice and the uncomfortable chuckles from diners trying to maintain a polite decorum, actively dragging down the atmosphere of the whole restaurant because he sounds like he's trying to sell everyone who walks in a mattress. The food at Gandolfo's wasn't as bad as its score will indicate, but it's the sort of place that, in the time since we went there, has become an active joke. Like we need to go to Little Rock for some reason and joke about going back to Gandolfo's, only for the other person to shake their head like they've just been filled with the bad memory of a thoroughly terrible experience. 2 out of 10. Kyogen Pho is a fairly recently opened restaurant that, like many Asian restaurants in Conway, do that thing where they serve a random assortment of dishes from all over East Asia. Chinese, Japanese, Thai, Vietnamese.
So, are you Chinese or Japanese?
Jack of all trades, master of none, I suppose. I decided to make the worst decision possible and order the pho, since, you know, it's in the name of the establishment. And I did this in spite of the fact that I don't really like pho. And look, let me come clean here. I don't just speed run restaurants in the area and post a video. I try something, write down the name of the restaurant, and when I have enough restaurants to make a video, I write the script. But we tried Kyogen Pho a couple weeks ago, and the memory of it just isn't there. I asked Mrs. Radin if she remembered, and she said the same thing. So after playing detective with my own memories, like the movie Memento, which I haven't seen, I'm going to have to rate Kyogen Pho as not being very memorable, because I can't remember it. No, wait, I remember now. Mrs. Radin got the pho, and she said it was just okay. I got the sliced beef bowl, and I didn't like it because the broth was just the pho broth, which I don't like. 5 out of 10. I try to stay on top of all the restaurant goings-on here in Conway just for you. So, for example, I learned that Volstead proper apparently closed its doors before I even had the chance to try it. Bummer. I keep a database of every restaurant in Conway that I have or haven't tried. So, to misquote the judge from Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, any restaurant that exists without my knowledge exists without my consent. So I was shocked to find a restaurant in Conway that I was completely unaware of. Tienda Mexicana El Colibri is a Mexican restaurant that sits next to Trainer Jay's Pokemon trading card store, and I'll thank you to not ask me what I was doing there. And when I say a Mexican restaurant, I mean a real Mexican restaurant, as in there's a Mexican grocery store attached to it and no one there speaks the king's English. We sat at a table, and after waiting for a spell, we were genuinely unsure if we, shouldn't be there. I mean, maybe it wasn't for people like us. I don't know, shut up. But after about 10 minutes we decided to bail, when a server greeted us and thankfully cut the tension. Mrs. Rain got a trio of tacos with an assortment of meats, and I got a barbacoa torta, and it was all exceptional. The best way I could summarize it is to say that the meat actually tasted like meat. Oftentimes with Mexican food, the proteins are either completely masked by seasonings, cooked for so long that any actual meat flavor has drained from it, or both. Collectively, we tried the barbacoa, carnitas, el pastor, and asada, and all were both well seasoned and tender, while still retaining their deep, meaty flavor. Well, the asada was just okay. It was probably the weakest of the bunch. But Tienda Mexicana El Colibri was like finding a hidden gem. So hidden, in fact, that they aren't listed on Google and you have to stumble across them like I did. Also, they're only open on the weekends. So check them out when you get the chance, and I'm giving them a 7 out of 10. Make sure you check out my latest detective book, which is at the link in the description at Barnes & Noble. Catch you in the next one, and I'll see you when I see you.